good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you are listening to and looking at this show. As some of you might know, and some of you may not know, I am Marvinetta Woodley Penn, and I am the former executive director of Global Girls Incorporated. Global Girls is a youth performing arts organization equipping girls with performing arts talent, with performing arts skills, communication skills, and self-discovery skills that help them live their best lives. I've since turned that organization over to a young lady who grew up in the program. She started when she was only 4, and now she is 28 or 29, living her best life and also moving Global Girls forward. Right now, I am the CEO of Marvinetta Penn Consulting, doing some amazing work in the Kalamazoo community, in Chicago, in Southern Illinois, and soon to be all over the world. Why? Because I said so. And I believe that you have to, before you can have a dream come true, you got to have a dream. So I'm starting with that dream, and I will be bringing you updates on that dream as we go along. Today, on All Stories Matter, I have a fantastic guest. The light went out. I'm not sure what happened, but I'm going to keep moving forward until they tell me not to move forward. I have a wonderful guest in the house today, Mr. James Devers from
Communities and Schools.
No. I want to make sure I said that right because I've been saying
Devers,
Devers and Devers. He told me about somebody with another pronunciation. So Mr. James Devers from Communities in School right here in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Without further ado, and before I butcher anything else, I'm going to invite Mr. James to introduce himself.
All right. Well, hello.
Hello.
I am James Devers.
James Devers, yes.
From Kalamazoo and here today. Yeah.
And here today. And we are so happy to have you. You know, one of the places, as you know, I'm not from Chicago. I am not from Chicago. I am not from Kalamazoo. I'm from a small town called East St. Louis, Illinois.
Okay.
So once I start talking, some of that East St. Louis, that diction might come out, might sneak out on me, and that's okay, that accent. But I lived in Chicago for a very long time, and I've only been in Kalamazoo for about 18, 19 months.
Okay.
And one of the first places that I discovered when I came to Kalamazoo was Communities in School.
Oh, okay.
And I visited one of your employees there to learn more about your programs and some of the things that you do, because Global Girls took programs into schools similar to what you guys did when I was in Chicago. But because I was a former school teacher, I had many connections with the schools, so it was very easy for us to get into those schools because I knew the principals and some of the teachers. So I says, I can do the same thing here. Not so. I soon found out. So I found out about Communities in School and K-RISA and KidNet and all the other people doing fabulous work.
For sure.
But now I want to hear from you.
Okay.
Your story, not just with Communities in School, but the story behind James Devers. So, where do you want to start? Why don't we start with Communities in School?
Okay, we can start with Communities in School.
Into
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot to the story for sure. But Communities in Schools, it's a local nonprofit that provides supports to students. Our mission is to empower students to stay in school and to achieve in life. So relatively simple, but at the same time, it can be a very complex work, and the beautiful part about it is by design. Communities in Schools is not meant to be a standalone, isolated organization, but by definition, our job, or by name rather, our charge is to bring the community to children and families at school. So we partner with a whole bunch of organizations in the community, good organizations doing wonderful work to try to connect them in their core service to the students at school to eliminate basically the barrier of trying to figure out how to get somewhere, after school. And so we just coordinate those services in the schools. We're in 23 Kalamazoo schools, and we've
awesome.
been working in the community for 20 years.
20 years. That's great. That's great. What do you think have been some of the major accomplishments for communities in school?
Yeah.
You know, in the
Okay.
history since you've
Sure.
been there.
Sure. I think from the very beginning, it was a unique beginning for our organization.
Yes.
So Communities in Schools is a national organization, and Communities in Schools of Kalamazoo is a local affiliate. But in terms of the origins of our affiliate, it actually began as a community partnership, an attempt to consolidate work that was taking place in multiple spaces into one umbrella. So to make it easier for the community to have to do the work and to support the work.
Yes.
So the city of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo Public Schools, and also the Chamber of Commerce were all instrumental in the origin of Communities in Schools of Kalamazoo.
Oh,
And so you see
nice.
that cross section of education, the business community, as well as government. And then again, just by definition, we're an organization that touches all of those sectors and is supported by all of those sectors in order to
Yes.
support, our children and families in the community.
Yeah. So what kind of what's the typical model of a program, or is there a typical model?
Right.
Like, do you focus on mentorship? Do you focus on arts education, and what kinds of arts education, or what are some of the programs that you bring in?
Right. So the model is labeled integrated student supports. So once again, in school, I'm coordinated by a person that we title a site coordinator.
Okay.
And their job and responsibility is again to assess the school environment, to assess the needs of individual students, and then to make the connections. So the typical model is to have that person in a building all day long. So CIS has staff in those 23 buildings all day long in a
Is that
dedicated
right?
space.
Okay.
And so we're able to work, in the place where we're providing the services. Then in terms of the model, it depends on the resources available in the community as well as
Okay.
the needs of the students, but there's certain buckets that are pretty consistent across all CISs. So basic needs support, academic enrichment, general life enrichment, college and career exploration, community service, mental health, physical wellness, things of that nature. So we those are like primary bucket areas, and again we connect to services that cross those different areas.
Wonderful. That's a great model. So
for sure.
is the model that you guys use, is that consistent for all communities and school programs wherever they are?
Yes, that's the intent. The intent is
Okay.
for it to be consistent.
Okay.
So the organization, we're affiliates, and it kind of follows like the franchise model.
Yes,
So where you
yes.
would expect a KFC in one community to be similar to the same as the
Yes.
KFC in another community.
Yes.
It's not quite as scripted as that, but there's certain core elements that are consistent across
Okay.
all CISs.
Okay.
And then in terms of just some unique elements of the Kalamazoo CIS is the level of saturation that we have in a single district. So within Kalamazoo Public Schools, we're in 22 of 25 school buildings.
Wow,
so
that
that
is
level of
awesome.
saturation is not
Yes.
typical for
Okay.
CISs. They tend to be spread out either more so within a district or even sometimes across districts, across states. But ours is unique is that it's very focused to the city of Kalamazoo and very much embedded in our system, in our district.
Oh, it sounds like the superintendent and KPS is really just bought into the program.
For sure, for sure.
That is a wonderful partnership,
sure.
and I'm sure you have some huge success stories with individual schools and individual families,
sure.
individual students.
For sure.
And one of the things that I saw you guys offer was a clothes resource.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that? How you get the things, how you get the things out to the,
Right.
how you get the items, how you get the items out to the students,
Sure.
to the families?
Sure. So we call it that entity. We call it our kids closet.
Okay.
And so kids closet is a dedicated space within all of those buildings. So we have a kids closet in all the buildings that we're in.
Is that right?
And then we also have a central warehouse through which we handle the logistics of kids closet. So we place orders. in some cases receive donations, and those things come to our central office, and then we're able to distribute them out to the schools. And again, kind of a uniqueness of Kalamazoo is most CISs, that coordination is done on a building by building basis. Whereas for us, because we have central support staff in the central warehouse, we're able to do it so that the individual building coordinators don't have to go find these resources on their own. We do it as from a central perspective, and then push it out just to improve efficiency and to give them more time and, to focus on the kids and their needs as opposed to trying to gather resources, because we do that on behalf of our team.
Awesome. So that's a wonderful resource to have.
For sure.
Because youth might not be forthcoming in, I need this, or my family needs this,
Right.
because of the stigma that's associated with it. But having someone dedicated to that school who can communicate with the teacher or the other resource people at the school and get the information firsthand, because the teachers are with these children every day, and so they're
Correct.
seeing that. So that partnership is vital.
Yes.
That's a wonderful program to have for our students. I keep thinking about the young people at Washington School, because I did a program with them, and I worked with the first graders, fourth graders, and fifth graders. Amazing. It was a theater program. They were so special. Just to see that light come on in their eyes when they're like, I get this. I see myself. I'm doing this. It was just amazing. So I'm sure that when they get some of your services, they get the resources that you guys have, it lights up in their eyes again, and it makes them feel whole and healthy.
Yes.
So how did you come to Communities in School?
Okay. I guess that's a longer story in the sense that...
that's okay. We got time.
I guess we do. Yeah, so basically my initial introduction to CIS was actually in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
So I used to work for Ohio State University, and the African American Studies Department had a satellite office in a historically African American neighborhood that during the time of segregation, that was one of the centers of African American life in Columbus, Ohio. So their African American Studies Department had a satellite office there to which we did programming right in the community.
Okay.
So I, in that building, was responsible for a computer literacy program. So in that, made connections with communities and schools of Central Ohio, and was the computer instructor in a middle school and elementary after school program through CIS. So I did that for a couple years when I was in Ohio.
Yes.
And then coming back to Kalamazoo in 2017, about a year after I relocated back here, back home, I applied for a job in CIS based off my limited understanding of CIS from my experience in Ohio. And then, of course, I've learned that it's much more than just an after-school program. But yeah, so that was how I got introduced to CIS.
Okay, so you found out, you were like, I've been working for CIS, so let me see if there's a CIS here, or you already knew that there was a CIS here.
I didn't.
In Kalamazoo.
No, it was just something I discovered after being here for a little while. Yeah.
All right, what brought you back? Well, what took you away from Kalamazoo, and what brought you back to Kalamazoo?
Okay, so what took me away is I went to Ohio State for grad school.
Oh, where'd you get your undergrad?
My undergrad degree is from Western.
Western.
Yes.
Everybody I've interviewed went to Western.
Yes.
I wish I had gone to Western.
Wonderful
But
school.
anyway,
Yes.
I know it is. It's fabulous, especially for the arts. Oh my God. Yes.
Yes.
Go on. So you went for your
yes.
advanced degree.
Yes, I did. So I went there.
Why there?
That was kind of just an interesting story.
Was it a girl?
It was not. It wasn't a girl. No.
Okay.
But basically, so I actually started off in college at University of Iowa. So I went there for my first 2.5 years of undergrad. I wanted to go away. I wanted to be in Big Ten territory. And
Iowa?
Yeah, it actually was a wonderful experience. It really was. It was different, for sure.
And that's Big Ten?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
they're one of the Big Ten schools.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I went there on an academic scholarship.
Awesome.
And
You're
so-
smart. You're smart. All right. All right.
Yeah. Depends on who
Okay.
you talk to, I guess. But yeah, so I went there, and then I ended up coming back home to finish school.
Okay.
Yep. And then so anyway, so I'm at Western, and a former high school classmate who moved away came back to Western to finish his degree. So kind of a similar circumstance. But he had connections in Columbus, Ohio, and the Ohio State University would annually, as part of their recruitment efforts for their graduate programs, would have a weekend in which they would invite students from HBCUs all across the country. And so because he had a connection with some folks in Columbus, he was able to coordinate a contingency from Western, even though weren't an HBCU,
Yeah.
to go to Columbus for that weekend.
Yes.
And so it was just an opportunity to see the campus and that's basically meet some future classmates, because it kind of worked out that way as well.
Yes.
To get an experience there in the city. And I just, in terms of, I guess, liking what I saw, during that visit, both from a school standpoint, but then also from a community standpoint, with
Okay.
Columbus, basically Ohio State, I don't know if folks actually know this, as huge as the school is, it's in the city. Like it's maybe a 5-minute drive from downtown Columbus. So it's embedded in the
Okay,
city. And so you were
awesome.
able to get that vibe when you're on campus as well. And I just, I don't know, just thought it was a good place to go. So I applied for the college after the visit, and ultimately it worked out very well. Ended up becoming a fellow there for grad school. So I was in the public policy and management program, and got my master's of public administration there.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yes.
Just during your post-high school years, you got 3 different experiences.
Yes.
3 different universities.
Yes.
Well, one was here in Kalamazoo, but
Yes.
that had a different flavor.
Yes.
And then you went Iowa. That
Yes.
had a totally different
For
flavor.
sure.
And then you wind up in Ohio for an entirely different flavor.
Yes.
So you were just a man about town.
I guess.
A man about
Right.
3 towns. Did you pledge anything?
No, I did
No?
not.
Why not?
Actually, if I would have stayed at Iowa, I was considering it. But when I transferred, it was kind of a decision based off circumstance. There were certain
Okay.
guys that I knew that
Okay.
were part of the same fraternity, and
What
they were
fraternity?
good guys.
Or do you not want to say?
I'd rather not say, but they were good guys.
Okay.
And, so we had some conversations about
Yeah.
me potentially pledging.
Okay.
But yeah, so I ended
Okay.
up changing schools, and after that, I didn't really consider it again.
Okay. Okay. I see you as a Kappa.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's usually the
Next.
guess, and it wasn't.
It wasn't.
the Kappas.
Then
no.
it was be Alpha.
And
But-
it was not that either.
Oh,
So yeah.
It was
So-
not Q.
No.
Okay. Sigma.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
it
can
was,
see that. I can
but
see that.
again,
Okay.
Iowa was different, but I won't get into much with that. But yeah, it was
Okay,
different.
but you
So,
know
yeah.
what? Mucho respect for all of the sororities and fraternities, because they're all founded and grounded, I believe, in service.
Yeah.
And that's what we need.
Yeah.
That's has been the motto since the beginning and continues into today, from what I can see. I didn't pledge while I was in college either, just because I wanted to be in this and that and this.
Yeah.
I wanted to be in everything. So I didn't want to align myself with anything, but that's a whole other story. So you finish school, you start your life, and then you decide to come back to Kalamazoo.
Yeah, after 22 years.
After 22 years,
Yeah.
what brought on that decision?
That was a very sudden decision. So to again add a little backstory. So my wife is also from Kalamazoo.
Okay.
When I went to Ohio State, it was a 2-year program. We got married during break between my first year and my second year. Yeah. So we
Okay.
both were around 23. So we were relatively young.
Yeah.
So the plan was to finish up at Ohio State
Uh-huh.
and to then come back to Kalamazoo. That was my intention. But didn't work out. We felt like God had a different plan for us, and that plan lasted 20 plus years. So it got to the point, I had been there so long, pretty much at that point, my entire adult life, or the bulk of my adult life, I lived there.
Yes.
Right? Because I was 22 when I went away to Ohio State. So I just kind of had gotten settled. My career was going okay, and I just felt like I enjoyed my life there. But it was around the 4th of July of 2017. I had a dream about moving back to Kalamazoo. And I didn't want to tell my wife because she wanted to come back over the years after a certain point in recent years. So I was like, I'm not going to tell her I had this dream because then she's going to get all excited and then she'll want to move back. And she'll want to move back to Kalamazoo. Like, and I'm not going back. And it wasn't one of those things where there was anything negative about this city. It was just that the life that I had there, I was just comfortable in that life.
Yes.
So nothing negative. So nevertheless, so I had the dream, but I wasn't going to tell her. So we're driving to Sandusky, Ohio, to go get our global entry interview. So that's what we went there for. And she starts to tell me about how, like, she's been thinking about moving back home.
Oh boy!
And then I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta tell her like I had this dream. So basically, I told her, and and then from there, like everything lined up, like extra fast.
Yes.
So that very weekend, so she in Columbus, she worked for the Children's Hospital in a program called Nurse Family Partnership, which is a national program sponsored by the hospital in Columbus. So, in excitement, she goes to the job postings to see what's available in Kalamazoo. And Kalamazoo had a nurse family partnership that is sponsored by the county. And they had an opening.
Of course they did.
Of course they did,
that's
right?
How the universe works. Yes.
So in a very, very sudden, no pre-planning, we went from a July conversation about coming back home to actually landing in Kalamazoo by the end of September because her job started the first week of October. So that's how quickly things shifted.
When you make up your mind, the universe starts action even before you make up your mind.
Okay.
When you had that dream, the universe started realigning life so that it would happen. That's how life is. That's how you create your reality. We had this conversation before, and now you're giving me an example of how it works. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys got back. She had her job lined up.
Yep, she had her job lined up in my company. This was pre-COVID, so but they allowed me to work from Kalamazoo, and then just to drive back once a month for a few days. So I was able to continue employment there for about a year. So that was our arrangement. And then eventually I started looking for employment locally, saw a job opportunity with communities and schools. In another position, so I started that in 2018, and then 6 months in, the founding executive director announced her retirement. And after a little deliberation, I ended up applying for the position, and then I became the executive director in July of 2019.
How you feel about that?
Now or then?
Yeah, then and now.
Then I think I had a lot of apprehension.
Yeah. Why?
Because it felt like the job, the responsibility, the role was going to be too big for me. And I was following a founding executive director who had done a great job, Pam Kingery. She'd done an amazing job building the organization.
Yes.
I knew, I had a sense, even though I was with the organization a relatively small amount of time at that point, I understood the value that the community had for the organization, like its place in our community.
Yes.
And as I started to understand some of those things, there was just apprehension, nervousness, fear, whatever the word is, right?
Yeah.
Words are, I guess,
Yeah.
in terms of the feelings about whether or not I could do it. even something as simple as the founding director had beautiful penmanship. And
That's
and so
funny.
she would write, notes to folks, and it was just I was like, my handwriting is horrible. Like, maybe I should just tell them never mind because, even something like that. So it was
Yeah.
those kind of thoughts. Like,
Yes. Am I
can I
going to
do
be
it?
able to fill
Yes.
these big shoes?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes. And that's natural. I think that's human. Anytime we are following somebody else, anytime we're looking at our predecessor and how they did things, and we're like, oh no.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
we have to realize that predecessor saw something in us.
Yeah.
And everybody around her saw something in you that says, no, this is the person.
Yeah.
And so you can step up and make some alterations.
Yeah.
Maybe there will be emails and not handwritten notices.
We had email, so it wasn't quite that drastic of a shift.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so that's how it happened, and here I am now,
Yeah.
6 years later in that role.
Awesome. So what would you say is one of your changes or advances or new projects or programs that you're most proud of that you have done? One of the things that you have done since you have been there to leave your mark for the next person to step in and say, ooh, I don't know if I can do what Mr. James did.
Yeah. So it's probably less of a thing or a program as much as it is embodying a connection to what we're about. Okay. So our work fits in our community's larger effort to end intergenerational poverty. Right? And to change the outcomes for the young people that grow up in our community whose family history may have been filled with challenges, may have been filled with financial difficulties and just other things that relate to growing up poor and to some degrees minority, in this part of the world. So I think the part that I bring is that I embody the journey.
Okay.
It's not abstract for me.
Okay.
I grew up poor in Kalamazoo.
Okay.
I grew up having experienced firsthand from a family, from a life perspective, the things that we talk about our children facing. So I know the struggle, I know the pain, I know the difficulty, I know those things. And I know the path. I know the path forward. So despite all the stuff that was going on, in my home, in my life, one thing that I was blessed to be a really good student.
Yes.
So in terms of the narrative, sometimes, in terms of just refining people's understanding and perspective, there's an assumption that because you grew up in poverty, that you automatically are a victim of the challenges that come with poverty. But that's not a guaranteed thing.
No.
It's not a guaranteed thing.
Yes, for
right?
sure.
And so having lived a life or lived experiences in which, despite, again, where I came from and what I came through, to still have academic success in this community, to have had experiences in this community that we often attribute to folks who come from middle and high income families. So one of the examples is, and I don't know, since you're relatively new to the city, there's this magnet school called the Kalamazoo Area Mathematics and Science Center. Okay. So it was founded in 1986, and it's a school in which 80 students are selected from the 13 Kalamazoo County school districts to participate in this advanced curriculum for math and science.
And what does that selection process look like? Briefly.
Yeah, there's testing, there's a review of your grades and things of that nature. That's
any teacher referral,
right? Those kind of things. So yeah, you have to apply to get in, and you have to qualify.
Okay.
So the timing was of such that I was a part of the first class of that program, and so again, the experience that I have, some of it, as I share a lot of stuff in the community anyway. So
Yeah.
this sense,
Why not?
so I'll share some of the stories. But
Yeah.
so there's the challenge of being a minority in a space, or a person of color, as we say today, in a space where there's not very many.
Yeah.
But there was also the added layer of being poor, low income in a space where the vast majority of the families, even the students of color, typically were middle to higher income. So there was this dual. There were a couple layers
Yes.
that I had to navigate during that
Yes.
journey, but and by the grace of God, I was able to complete a journey that a lot of people don't complete, even from much different circumstances.
Yes.
I was able to graduate in that, in the 4 years that we did that, and from there had a lot of different successes. So kind of going back to what I was saying at the beginning, is so I come back to the community with the mindset that we can't use poverty as an excuse,
Indeed,
for people not having academic success. I take it personally when it's even implied in the conversation.
I understand.
I take it personally.
Yes.
And so in terms of, I guess in terms of what I bring, so I'm able to serve at times. My life has been like a bridge.
Yes.
In a lot of different areas, but as with this particular conversation, to show, one side, show the life filled with challenges, but also to show the things that could emerge, the beauty, that can come, the treasure that's hid in darkness. It's stated different ways, and I think that's what I bring, that's unique to the organization.
Awesome. I'm sure it adds to the overall culture, to the intention of the organization to hold this up and let us never lose sight of the why of our work.
Yes.
That there is a little boy or a little girl out there who can become the next you.
Right.
And go even further, even farther.
For sure.
So let's keep that in mind.
Right.
For every piece of work that we do, for every interaction, for every grant, for everything that we do. And
Right.
I so understand that, because that was the everything for my organization, for Global Girls. I know what I went through as a young girl growing up Black. And so I have to keep that in mind with all the young ladies that we work with, every program we do. And that's the heart, that becomes the heart of the organization. And I'm sure one of the things that separates communities in school, Kalamazoo, from other communities and schools, and I applaud you for that. I truly do. I want to get back to a part of unless you were about to say something else.
I was just going to say that another amazing part about it is that
Yes.
I'm not the only one in our organization who's had that localized experience and also had, again, the challenges and the success. So I think just, as a group, it's something that is evident in how we go about our work.
Yes. Yes, that commitment that goes beyond everything else, all the pluses and positives out here, but that's that intrinsic element that drives the work and makes it really authentic and whole for the people you serve. What do you think was that X factor when you were growing up that made you, even though you were going through all the trials of being the first Black, the only Black, the coming from the what you went through, what was that X factor that you had that propelled you forward, that kept you moving forward, kept you on track?
I would say one of them for sure is my mother. She was a person who, despite whatever challenges she was facing, she wasn't a person to use those things as an excuse. Her mindset, even to this day, is, when life gets hard, she's going to figure out a path forward. And so in our household, what was modeled for us was keep it moving. no matter what you're dealing with, no matter what you're going through, just keep it moving.
Keep it moving.
You know, and so, you know, sometimes for folks on the outside looking in, at times it can seem exceptional when you talk about the stuff you kept it moving through. But I would say for us, it felt normal.
It was just life.
Because that's how, that's what we saw.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a big X factor. And then I would say also being introduced to the church was also huge. So we started going, my mom started going, I was around 12 years old. So I'm the oldest of 5 siblings that grew up in my household. So I was around when stuff was happening, and I remember stuff as it happened, right?
Yes.
But when she got into the church, she got saved, and she changed her life. I also ended up in a different circle.
Peer group. In
a different peer
like
group,
a family, another,
or just
family,
and other folks like in the church community where I was able to see something different than just what I grew up in and around, and also too, so that was huge, both from an environmental standpoint, and then as I made my own personal commitments, then it prevented me from some of the pitfalls and traps that were common to my lineage. For us in particular, alcohol and drugs, huge. And so in having that faith journey and having those personal commitments and convictions in that area, it prevented me from partaking in things that were typically things that derailed, particularly the men in our family. And so those two things were huge. My mother and our introduction to the faith.
Would you say that your mother and the church gave you principles and values and another way of thinking about what was really important in your life? And those things have been a part of your life since.
Absolutely, yes.
They not only taught you the word integrity, or maybe not even used the word integrity, but they demonstrated the definition of those principles. So you were like, if the people that I admire, the people that I'm looking up to, the people that I see navigating these hurdles, if they're doing this, then maybe I can do the same thing. That was a lot of intuition on your part too, to be able to connect the dots. Because a lot of people can be in that environment and still not pick up on those factors.
Well, it's I guess when you're in an environment, of course, you can become a product of your environment. But then the other part too is for some that have the orientation like, you learn what you don't want.
You see
for
it.
Yourself, for your life, for your children, for the people, And so, I'm grateful.
Yes.
Because there were a lot of things that, I would say that I had free access to. But after seeing, for me, seeing the pain at times in different people's eyes of folks that I really cared about as a result of, I would just say, being under the influence.
And choices.
Right? And choices and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to hurt people. I didn't want to do damage. Others or for myself.
Yes.
And so, and again, being in the church, being in the faith, also gave me a power source to tap into. Because a lot of things in life are bigger than you individually.
So that belief in a higher authority, just knowing that your life has more meaning than what you might be willing to do, that I can try it anyway, it won't hurt. But no, I've got something else over here that's calling me, that's resonating with something inside me. That's what I think I'm hearing. I don't want to put words in your mouth. But because I so identify with that. And it's such a beautiful thing. Now, what happened to what trajectory were your siblings on?
I would say it's. I would say the results have been mixed,
Okay.
but at the same time, the they didn't. None of us missed out on the potential because we all had access to the same well,
Okay.
and we all drank from the same well.
Okay.
So even though the ultimate results may look different amongst different siblings, there's some commonality in terms of being able to keep it moving, despite having gone through a lot, been through a lot, seen a lot, those kind of things. And then, success looks different in different ways. I know sometimes we try to put it, in a certain category, in a certain
Right.
box.
Yes,
But
yeah.
I would say that for my siblings, each of them have a measure of uncommon strength. Each of them has a measure of uncommon determination, and really each of them are very, very bright.
Nice.
Again,
Okay.
everybody doesn't have a degree, but everybody's bright.
Wonderful.
And so yeah,
Wonderful. Wonderful. What? I'm going to go off because I was going to ask you another question.
All right.
Because it's interesting to me how people can grow up. I don't know what happened with my throat. It just got a little catch in it. I'm not going to worry about it. But it's interesting how people can grow up in the same household, be exposed to the same things, but there is something that separates those people. And I think it's something that we're born with. There's something that's intrinsic and unique to the individual that certain aspects of their lives or experiences that they have resonate with that uniqueness in them, and having exposure to a lot of different experiences will give you experiences that either resonate with you, with that intrinsic part of you, or that don't. And when we have the discernment to see, then we can move in this direction rather than moving in that direction. I believe that one of the tenets of a powerful, strong school system is helping each individual see that uniqueness.
right.
And I don't think our schools do it. I think I was a school teacher for 19 years in Chicago. I've been exposed to schools in different
Right.
cities in this country. And I think most schools, public schools, are still operating on the same system that they were originally operating under, where you bring kids, young people, into the classroom. They sit, they listen, they get information, and then they regurgitate that information. I don't think that's preparing them for the world of tomorrow when they graduate. I'd like to hear your perspective on that. As somebody who's working with young people and targeting them, trying to get programs
Right.
to help them become successful, are you in a position to even discuss this on a public forum?
Well, I won't say anything to get myself in
thought,
trouble.
You know,
I know
as
that
I was
much.
formulating that,
yeah.
I'm like,
What I'll say
generally
is,
speaking.
what I'll say generally speaking, from my observation, having also worked directly in school buildings as well, is that there is the challenge is this. There's a lot of narratives about people, whether we're talking about race, whether we're talking about gender, whether we're talking about socioeconomic status. There's a lot of narratives out there. And the challenge is a lot of the folks that educate children have been indoctrinated by a narrative that blinds them to the true potential of our children. And I think, if I think that's the challenge, is how do you see beyond the narrative that we've, been indoctrinated with, the one that we've lived in, concerning things like poverty, right? It's based on what you look at, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you can look at everyone that struggles, but how much time do you spend looking at those that rise to the top no matter what they like?
No matter
what do you
what.
look at?
Yes,
And I
yes.
think so again with that narrative. And I think sometimes, being in it, unfortunately, can also reinforce some narratives. And at a certain point, the ability to see beyond the narrative dims. And so, and I feel like that at its essence is the biggest challenge. And the word that we use, I would say, is where it's reflected is in expectations, right?
Yes.
And the
yes.
example that I like to use is if a teacher is teaching math,
Yes.
and they're trying to educate a student,
Yes.
if they believe that the student has the potential to learn, when the student doesn't learn the first time, they'll try another way because they're operating from a paradigm that I know you, fill in the blank, child.
Yes.
You can do this.
Yes.
And so they keep pushing because they believe that they can. But the opposite of that is also true, right?
Yes.
If you look at a child and you say, based upon your interpretation of them, and sometimes even your interpretation of yourself, and unfortunately, math has that landmine. Whereas you have grown-ups in spaces saying, I wasn't good at math, so I don't expect you to be good at math. You never hear that in the language arts. I didn't learn how to read, so you won't learn. No, that's not. But in math,
same thing in English.
Okay.
I was an English teacher.
Okay.
I don't know how to write, so I'm just going to have you fill in these
Right.
blank sheets of paper, or read the sentence, fill in the blank. No, that is not writing. That is not teaching writing. So
but basically, again, the narrative is going to determine your approach.
Okay.
And so I think that is the biggest challenge: is how can we look past the narrative that our children are incapable to see how capable they are.
How do you think AI is going to play into that? Because I have some theories about AI and public education that's going to displace a lot of people.
Yeah, so here's so
are you open to go down this route? Okay, okay.
I'm not going to say anything that's wrong or off
no,
base.
No. And plus, this is your interview.
Right. And I'm
talking with you as James.
Yes, thank you.
Not James, the executive director of.
Yeah.
And you're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even still,
Yeah.
I'm conscious of things.
Exactly.
But yeah, my biggest concern with that is whether folks will give over, if folks will lose their capacity to analyze and in giving it over to the algorithm. So I grew up, I'm 52. So I was in college when the internet was becoming a thing. It wasn't yet a thing before I got there. It was becoming a thing while I was in college years. And so what I remember in the early days of the computer searches is that you actually had to know a level of programming in order to prompt the computer, the search engine, to give you the type of results you were looking for. You had to help the algorithm refine the search results by adding characters to refine the search. Well, eventually, Google came along. Ask Jeeves came along, for those that remember that one. And we got used to just typing in some random words and letting the algorithm search for us. So then we lose the ability to refine our searches. So now fast forward into AI, to this generation, or this era.
Yeah.
Automation in general has always had the advantage of it is that it's faster at certain tasks than we are typically, right? So the challenge is after you give over your ability to process, after you give over your ability to follow an algorithm and to understand certain things like that, eventually you lose the ability to do so. And maybe in some cases for our children, they never even got a chance to learn. So they're at a certain point, they will be dependent on the algorithm because they don't know. They don't know how to refine. They don't know how to analyze. I'm giving it over to the algorithm. And so that's my concern. You know, it's not so much about it, you know, can it help you? Does it work? All that kind of stuff. I personally don't want to lose my ability to analyze.
Yes.
And we see in terms of, you know, the problems that we're having right now as it relates to what we call division. The division is the result of algorithms. We got to the point where we got used to, instead of seeking out balanced opinions, we got used to just taking in what the algorithm gives us, and it reinforces what we like, what we agree with, what we think about stuff. And then eventually you get programmed yourself. You get programmed by the program. And, you know, that's my concern. So it's, you know, not controversial in that sense, but I'm afraid, because we've already seen the evidence of it, that people will lose their ability to think.
Yeah. One of the things that I like about technology, and especially AI, I use it every day, every day. As an assistant, first you have to be able to come up with the prompt and specify what you want. So you got to think it through. And then you have to search out. Then you put it into the AI, whatever program. I use ChatGPT a lot. I even use DeepSeek. And but then I'm constantly refining. Give me a better answer. If I do this, how will this measure with this? So I can see it as being an asset for our young people, like some of the teaching programs, the tutoring programs that are currently out there, where I forget the name of the program, but you can ask you can ask any question like, how do I figure this math problem? And it will not only walk you through it, but it will ask you questions. So how do you think you got to this answer? Or how do you think this relates to this question? So it can be like a personal tutor to help those students who might be struggling in one area, and the teacher's dealing with 35 or 25 students in a class. But if they could each have access to that, then they could do some individualized learning also. So I see that as having a huge benefit, not the social media component, but the actual help the teacher's assistant in a way.
Certainly it can be leveraged for good.
Yes, definitely. So I want to know more about James, the person. How did you meet your wife?
So
that brings a smile to your face. Yes.
So we grew up together. You know, in the community.
Okay.
Right. So we went to the same elementary school. We weren't friends at the time, but we knew of each other. In high school, we actually we lived down the street from each other, rode the same bus to Kalamazoo Central.
Oh my gosh.
But we weren't friends. So
you just saw each other from, hey, how you doing?
Well, we didn't even talk. No, it wasn't. Yeah, and we were literally a few houses down from each other. But
when did the spark come?
It came fast.
Okay, like everything else.
Yeah. Everything else, yeah. So we met, I guess we actually formally met through church.
Okay.
But in terms of just things moving fast, I kind of fast forward this part. So we went on our first date. I don't know what the date was at this point, but we got engaged within a month. Yeah.
You knew she was the one, and she knew you were the one.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, that's
We
something.
probably both have probably wondered since then from time to time. But
Hey,
no,
that's called
in
marriage.
all seriousness. But yeah,
That's
so
just a
so we do it
relationship.
from the beginning. So
Wonderful.
yeah, we ended up waiting a year to
Uh-huh.
actually have the wedding.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so we God willing, we'll celebrate 30 years in 2026.
Great. How many
Yeah.
children do you have?
We have 4, but as I mentioned when we met, we actually don't have any biological children. So
Well, tell me that story
Yeah.
because that is,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
inspiring.
yeah. Well, so actually, communities and schools has something to do with that. Yeah. So basically, in our time in Columbus, we actually talked about fostering multiple times over the years, but we never made the commitment to go through the process. But in my time, back in Kalamazoo and working at CIS, one of the things that struck me, as I was just thinking about our work, is that it has a window. It has a limited window. So the work that we do maybe starts as early as 7 o'clock in the morning, goes as late, say 7 o'clock at night. But it's not there on the weekends. It's not there during holidays. It's not there during summer break. And even from 7A to 7P, well, from 7P to 7A, we're not there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, again, knowing about life personally lived as well as just the experiences that our children and families are having, I just recognized that or felt that fostering would give us an opportunity to support kids that needed 24-hour support.
Yes.
24-hour help. So for me, that was the thing that took it from an idea to something that, yes, we're going to do this. And so we went through the licensing process during 2021. And we got a couple respite placements while the paperwork was still getting processed.
Yes.
But we got our first official placement in January 2022. And that's the 4 children that are now we've adopted.
Oh, you got all 4 at one time?
Yes.
So you went from no children
Correct.
to a family of 6.
Yes.
Overnight.
Overnight, literally.
How did your wife adjust to that?
It's been an adjustment. 'Cause
Yes.
it's a big difference in life and
Indeed.
lifestyle. Right?
Indeed.
Yeah. But she's adjusted. And it's still adjusting because there's still a learning process.
Yes,
Yeah.
and she's a working mother.
Well, she's actually not.
She's no
currently.
longer
No,
working.
So one of the agreements was that she would come off the job and so that she could focus on that and not feel as conflicted from a schedule standpoint.
Oh
to
my
be able to
God!
provide the
I need to
support.
interview her.
Definitely interview her. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she sounds amazing.
She
Well,
is.
you both are amazing, and I so commend you for that because not everybody's willing to do that.
Yeah, well.
We need more foster families. So, guys out there, if you've thought about it, please consider it again because we could use more foster,
Absolutely.
more loving, caring, engaged, and purpose-driven foster families.
Absolutely.
Principle-based.
Absolutely.
Foster families. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I've got a few minutes left.
Okay.
What quote, idea, example do you lean on in those hard times, those challenging hours where you're like, oh, ooh, really? You put this on me? What do you lean on?
I mean, there's a lot of Bible verses that come to me at different points and different times. But I think one that to me is kind of a good summary of a lot of the other verses is that God makes everything beautiful in His time. That's in Ecclesiastes. After there's a time for joy, a time for the famous verses. A little bit later down the line is God makes all things beautiful in His time, or something like that. And so for me, that's the one that I lean on, and one of my spins of that is, and I say this part of it is a statement of faith, but part of it is a statement of fact, because I can look back and see it to be true, is that none of my tears have ever been wasted.
Ooh. How beautiful is that?
Yeah. So any painful or difficult situation that I can recall, the story of it, the journey, the overcoming, the things that I learned in the midst of it, I found them to be a blessing to my life, but also a blessing to other people's lives. So, like, literally,
Yes.
I can look back at any bad memory that I have. I can also at some point in time acknowledge that experience had a purpose attached to it, either for me or for somebody that I've encountered. And so, yeah.
Awesome. In just a couple of minutes, because we're really out of time, where do you see yourself in, just a couple of words, where do you see yourself in 20 years? We started here before the podcast began.
I don't know. So, honestly, I used to at one point in time, I didn't think I would live past 60.
Well, you're almost there.
So
you want to
I'm
live to
almost
90.
there.
So where do you want to be in 20
years?
Yeah. Just one little bit. We talked about seeing, using that imagination.
Right.
If you can dream it, you can achieve it. What would you like to see in 20 years?
I know it doesn't fit what you were saying, but that just that's not the way I've lived life. I mean, I've already told you about sudden, unusual moves.
Yes.
So, in a real short version, the story of Abraham, God told him to go to a land that I will show you. And so sometimes I do believe that, that if you can see it, you can achieve it. But I also believe, and my experience has been, if you make the right next move, you get to where you're supposed to be. And I've learned to be comfortable with that.
Okay.
And I've learned to appreciate it.
Okay.
So I don't. And even just sitting here right now, as a child, I didn't have aspirations per se. As I shared with other folks, I just wanted to be able to have decent employment and take care of my family. It was very simple. But God has worked it as such that my life is much more than I thought it.
Yes.
I ever would have imagined. And so, I mean, if it's been like that through 52 years, I'm
it's
okay.
It's going to be so amazing in the next 50.
So I'm okay with whatever's next.
Yes,
because I never, most of this stuff I never aspired for.
Okay.
So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so very much for
right.
sharing the story with
sure.
me today. I love hearing about people's journeys, about their hopes and dreams, about what makes them tick, what makes them happy. And I encourage all of you out there to talk to somebody, to sit down over coffee or over a microphone and just hear somebody else's story. Take the time to listen intensely. Not intensely, but intentionally and intensely sometimes, because it's then that we form those connections. It's then that we learn to see things from other people's perspectives. It's then that we open our minds and our hearts to inhabit somebody else's life, if only for a few minutes. And that's how we build community. And when we build community, we can have that ripple effect. And then we can change the world, one story at a time. Thank you so much for tuning in again to All Stories Matter. See you next time.